My fellow Africans and friends of the continent, something extraordinary is happening. For decades, we have been told that development in Africa is impossible without help from the outside. We were told that loans from powerful institutions were our only way forward, that we were too poor, too divided, too dependent to build anything meaningful without permission slips from international powers. But today, something is changing. A new path is being laid, not with ink on contracts, but with steel on the earth, not in the boardrooms of the West, but across the deserts and hills of the Sahel. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have joined hands to launch one of the boldest infrastructure projects in African history, a high-speed railway that connects the heart of three nations, built with their own resources, their own decisions, and their own pride. No loans from the International Monetary Fund, no hidden clauses, no foreign strings attached. This is not just a train. It is a declaration, a rejection of the idea that Africa must always wait for permission, a symbol that we can build, we can lead, and we can unite on our own terms. As a child of Africa, my soul aches when I see our muddy roads drowning trade, our children wasting away in hunger, and our brothers wandering jobless with empty hands. Not because we lack strength, but because we have been denied the power of connection. We need roads, we need railways, we need unity. This is our moment to rise, to learn, to build together. Let the world no longer mock us. Let them witness a continent reborn. Tell us where you are watching from, and subscribe to our channel to follow Africa's journey toward a bold, free, and unstoppable future. But how did these countries, some of the poorest in the world, achieve something so ambitious? How will it change the daily lives of farmers, families, and traders? And why is the world watching with both awe and anxiety? Stay with us, because this story is not only about railways, it is about rebellion, about vision, and about the unstoppable spirit of a continent that refuses to be underestimated. Let us begin. For far too long, Africa's roads have not just been broken, they have been blocked by the invisible hands of foreign control. Every rail not built, every bridge that collapsed, every project that failed to begin, they were not only engineering issues, they were symptoms of a deeper disease, dependence. For decades, institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank promised assistance. They handed us loans wrapped in conditions: cut your budgets, privatize your land, open your markets, and surrender your power. These were not partnerships. They were contracts of control. Africa was told that development must be borrowed, that we needed permission to dream, that our infrastructure, our hospitals, our roads, would only exist if someone else signed off the budget. But now, something radical is happening. In the heart of West Africa, three nations have risen with a single voice: Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger. Countries once labeled poor, unstable, and dependent. Today, they are tearing up the old rule book. They are building a railway across their borders without asking anyone's approval, without waiting for loans, without submitting to foreign terms. This is not just a transport project. It is an act of defiance, a rejection of the idea that progress must be imported, a signal to the world that Africa will no longer beg to be built. In this bold move, these nations are saying, we are no longer afraid of building with our own hands. We are no longer prisoners of impossible contracts. We are no longer listening to the voices that told us we could never succeed without them. And it is not just about steel tracks and concrete stations. It is about dignity. Because when a nation lays its own infrastructure, it is not just building for trade. It is building pride. It is building unity. It is restoring the belief that we can define our own future. This railway cuts across borders that were drawn by colonial powers. But now, it reconnects people by choice, not by force. It reminds us that the map of Africa does not need to divide us. It can unite us. That development does not need to arrive with foreign flags. It can grow from African soil, and the message is loud. From the deserts of Niger to the green hills of Mali to the heart of Burkina Faso, Africans are watching something extraordinary. For the first time in generations, a major infrastructure project is being built not with foreign aid, but with African ambition. This is the dawn of a new era, where our roads are not dictated by creditors, but by community. Where our railways are not the tools of extraction, but the tracks of freedom. Because when you build your own road, no one can tell you where to go. And when you lay your own rail, you decide your own direction. This is why the superrail matters. Not only because of where it leads, but because of what it leaves behind. A legacy of courage, of refusal, of hope. The time of permission is over. Africa is not asking anymore. Africa is acting. It began not with noise, but with a quiet resolve. In April of the year 2025, the capital city of Burkina Faso, Ouagadougou, became the meeting ground of something historic. Leaders from Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger gathered not just for another summit, not just for another speech, but for a signature that would mark the beginning of one of the most daring infrastructure projects in African history. They did not arrive with briefcases full of foreign contracts. They did not wait for instructions from overseas consultants. They came with a blueprint for dignity, drawn from the hands of their own people. The agreement was simple but powerful. Together, the three nations would construct a high-speed railway linking the capital cities of Niamey in Niger, Bamako in Mali, and Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso. This route would stretch across hundreds of kilometers, through villages, farmland, and urban centers. It would unite the heart of the Sahel region with a single pulse, a train that would not stop for borders and would not wait for foreign aid. And this was no ordinary railway. It would be powered by modern electric systems, designed to reach speeds of 160 kilometers per hour, capable of carrying both passengers and heavy cargo, a lifeline for trade, for travel, for transformation. But what makes this project truly revolutionary is not the technology, it is the funding. This railway is being built without a single loan from the International Monetary Fund. No economic strings, no political conditions, no forced privatizations in exchange for progress. Instead, the funding is a blend of national resources and bold partnerships. Each government has committed significant internal funds, reallocating budgets from wasteful projects and corruption-prone sectors. Local businesses have been invited to invest, with a promise of long-term dividends. And technical assistance has been welcomed from non-Western allies, including China and Turkey, not as masters, but as partners. The message is clear. Africa is no longer for sale. Africa is investing in itself. The vision behind this project was not born in luxury hotels or international seminars. It was born from necessity, from the muddy roads that trap farmers in poverty, from the endless bus journeys that stretch across unreliable highways, from the frustration of being isolated in your own region. This is what pushed these nations to act, not theory, reality. And it was not easy. The region has faced drought, conflict, and political pressure, but the leaders pressed on because they knew this railway is not just for themselves. It is for the millions who walk miles to sell tomatoes, for the children who miss school because of distance, for the traders who lose profits in delayed deliveries. It is for the idea that Africans deserve speed, dignity, and modernity, just like anyone else. Each rail being laid is not just metal, it is memory. It is proof that when Africans decide to move forward, nothing can stop them. And this is only the beginning. What started as a document signed in a humble hall in Ouagadougou is now becoming a model, a symbol, a new blueprint for African infrastructure, designed not for dependency, but for destiny. This is how revolutions begin. With unity, with resolve, and with tracks laid down not for extraction, but for elevation. Every time a train moves forward, it carries more than passengers or cargo. It carries stories. It carries the dreams of a people long denied the right to move, to grow, to connect. This railway, stretching across Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, is not just a line on a map. It is a bridge between isolation and opportunity. It is the path from forgotten villages to vibrant cities. It is the physical expression of a new idea, that African lives deserve the same speed, safety, and dignity as anywhere else in the world. Imagine a farmer in Niger, once stuck with unsold harvests, because the roads were too muddy, the transport too slow, and the market too far. Now, she places her goods on a train and watches them reach new buyers across borders in hours instead of days. Her tomatoes are no longer spoiled. Her income is no longer trapped. Her family eats better. Her children go to school. This is not theory. This is transformation. Or picture a child in Mali, walking miles just to reach a basic school. Now, the train becomes a classroom on wheels. It makes education accessible. It connects him to libraries, to teachers, to possibilities. He is no longer limited by his village. His world expands with every station. Families divided by borders can now visit each other in safety. Traders can cross the Sahel with goods, not fear. Medical supplies can be delivered to remote clinics before lives are lost. And businesses can grow beyond the horizon of their towns. This is the quiet power of infrastructure. It is not loud like speeches. It does not flash like headlines. But it changes everything. And beyond the economics, beyond the logistics, there is something even more powerful. Pride. For the first time in generations, people in this region are seeing something built, not by outsiders, but by themselves. Something large, lasting, and visionary. Something that tells them, you are not forgotten, you are not small, you are capable. The railway is becoming a symbol, not just of transport, but of unity. It connects not just cities, but identities. It reminds us that we are not three separate nations. We are one region, with one struggle, and now, one track leading forward. And it comes at a time when the world often defines the Sahel by its pain, by conflict, hunger, and instability. But this train tells a different story. A story of revival, a story of resistance, a story of rebirth. Where others see dust, we see direction. Where others expect silence, we hear movement. Where others expect despair, we deliver momentum. And when a young girl in Burkina Faso watches the train pass through her village, she no longer wonders what the future holds. She sees it moving before her eyes, fast, strong, unstoppable. This is how nations are built. Not just with cement and cables, but with belief, with courage, with pride. And as the tracks extend across the region, they lay more than steel. They lay foundation for dignity, for connection, for a future where no African child has to apologize for being born on this continent. Because this railway says what we have known all along. We are not waiting to be rescued. We are ready to ride. No great African dream has ever risen without a storm of doubt. And this railway, this bold, unapologetic strike for freedom, is no exception. The critics have lined up. They say the project is too expensive, that Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger should focus on smaller things. Potholes, power cuts, survival. They say the countries lack expertise, that maintenance will collapse, that corruption will swallow the steel before it sees sunlight. They whisper behind closed doors. These people are dreaming too big. But those whispers carry the same tone that kept us small for centuries. The same voice that said we could not govern ourselves, that our independence would fail, that we would always need guidance, always need approval, always need to borrow our future. To those voices we say this: we are no longer asking what we are allowed to build. We are building what we deserve. Let us talk about cost. Yes, the super railway carries a price tag counted in billions. But how do you measure the cost of being stuck in time? How much does it cost a mother to lose her harvest because the road washed away in the rains? How much does it cost a child to walk 10 kilometers to school because there is no bus, no train, no bridge? This project is not expensive. What is expensive is living without it. And what about expertise? Africa has built railways before, for the benefit of colonizers, for gold, for timber, for cocoa, but never for us, never for our movement, never for our dignity. Today, we are rewriting that story. The governments are training a new generation of engineers. Universities are opening departments focused on rail technology. Scholarships are being offered for railway logistics, civil engineering, electrical systems. We are not just building a railway, we are building the people who will carry it forward. We are creating not dependency, but mastery. Maintenance. The system is designed for resilience. The trains will be electric, the stations solar-powered. A regional railway authority is being formed, African-led, African-funded. These are not temporary solutions. They are seeds of permanence. And yes, some say this is all just symbolism, but they forget. Symbols move people more than statistics ever could. When a village hears the distant rumble of a train they built with their own sweat, they feel more than progress, they feel power. When a young girl sees her country build without asking permission, she grows up knowing she can lead, not follow. When a nation turns down a loan from the International Monetary Fund and turns up with a blueprint, it is not just steel they are laying, it is pride. And yes, there will be delays, mistakes, challenges. Every real revolution has them. But unlike the critics, we are not looking for reasons to stop. We are looking for ways to push forward. Because we know, no one ever built the future by playing small. No people ever earned dignity by staying silent. This railway may not silence every doubt, but it answers with motion. It answers with courage. It answers with the thunder of wheels on tracks laid by hands that once were told they were not strong enough. And now, they are unstoppable. What began as a signature on a paper has now become a signal to the entire continent. A signal that we are ready. Ready to rise. Ready to build. Ready to believe. The super railway is not just a transport line. It is a lifeline. A symbol that Africa can chart its own course. Not tomorrow, not in theory, but now, with courage, with unity, with steel, sweat, and soul. This project tells a different story. Not one of desperation, but of direction. Not one of begging, but of building. It shows that our children deserve more than broken promises, that our farmers deserve more than broken roads, that our nations deserve more than borrowed dreams. It shows that we do not have to remain the continent of waiting. We can be the continent of doing. So wherever you are, whether you are watching from the bustling streets of Lagos, the hills of Kigali, or the deserts of Timbuktu, remember this: Africa is moving. And this time, the train does not stop for doubt. Tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Share this story, not for views but for vision, because every share, every comment, every voice adds power to the momentum. Subscribe to this channel. Join the movement. Witness the rebirth of a continent that the world can no longer ignore. This is not just a video. It is a call to believe. Again, a call to unite. A call to ride. For a free, strong, and proud Africa. I am Kwame Mensah, a teacher living in Tamale, a humble city in northern Ghana. I have lived my whole life walking the dusty roads that connect my village to the market, to the clinic, to the outside world. And when I heard the news that a high-speed railway is being built in the Sahel, connecting Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, my heart swelled, not because I live there, but because I feel it. I feel it in my bones. I feel it in my dreams. I feel it because I, too, am Africa. For years, we have watched our continent move slowly, not because we lack energy, but because we were always told to wait. Wait for help, wait for loans, wait for permission. But that waiting has cost us time, blood, and generations. When I was a boy, my father used to say, "One day, Africa will build for Africa." I never saw it happen in his time. But maybe, just maybe, I will see it in mine. This train is more than steel. It is a sign that Africa rising is not just a phrase. It is a feeling, a fire, a fact. For the first time, we are witnessing three nations joining hands, not to fight a war, but to fight silence. Not to take from each other, but to give movement to the people. I see young people in my school now talking about engineering, talking about how they want to be part of this. They do not want to run away to Europe. They want to stay, to learn, to build. That is the power of vision. That is Africa reborn. We are tired of seeing our borders used to divide us. The new Africa does not see lines. It sees bridges. It sees tracks. It sees common destiny. And I believe this is just the beginning. We will see more trains, more unity, more pride. And one day, from Cape Town to Cairo, from Accra to Addis Ababa, we will ride across a continent that no longer waits for its turn, because it is already moving. Africa Rising is not about politics. It is about people. It is about that mother who can now sell her vegetables in a faraway market. That child who will get to school on time. That elder who will, no longer walk miles for medicine. And yes, we have been mocked. We have been measured by foreign standards, but we have learned. We have awakened. This is Africa Reborn, not in slogans, but in soil and sweat. I dream of a new Africa, where we do not compete with each other, but complete each other, where Ghana celebrates with Niger and Mali stands for Burkina Faso. That is the Africa my children deserve, because now the ground is shaking, and it is not fear, it is footsteps. Africa rising, Africa walking forward, Africa, at last, laying its own tracks.